Welcome to another episode of Tech Lounge, a podcast where we discuss the ever-changing world of technology. And now your host, Dan Duran.
It's Friday again, then Saturday and Sunday, what? It's Friday again, then Saturday and Sunday, what? Hey guys, my name is Dan Durant, and I'm the host of the Tech Lounge. Thank you for coming on board. Here we discuss topics related to business, leadership, technology, and today, web development. Welcome to the show, episode number 19. But hey, who's counting, right? Who's counting? Hiring a web designer, web agency, partner, 10 questions you must ask. Just remember, we stream live every Friday on YouTube, and we're also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, TikTok, you name it. We're everywhere. Just remember, we also podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, and pretty much everywhere where you can get your hands on a good podcast. So please make sure you follow us using the hashtag Dan Duran. You like that?
I like it. Love it.
And watch us every Friday. So now sit back and relax. This is the Tech Lounge. Rum drawl. So today in the virtual studio, we have the man himself, G Money, Gladstone Yamasepor, Senior Project Manager at Bewire Technologies. Hello, G.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Nice to see you, Andrew. Always good to
see you, Gladstone.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. And we also have my co-host extraordinaire, the Rock of Bewire, the man who makes Bewired wired, the superstar, the man himself, Andrew Summerton, CEO of Bewire Technologies. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, Dan. Thanks for that very unique intro. I appreciate it. Gladstone, G-Money, good to have you here in the house. Always nice to see you.
I feel the energy, man. I feel the energy. And all our top fans in there. Gladstone, Crowd Control. Who is saying hi? Are you guys out there? Reach out, say hi, send your shout outs. We'll put them on the screen.
Right.
Go on, Gladstone. Who do we have?
Adrian Perez says hello.
Hello.
Nice.
And who else we got? Kai. Good afternoon, Kai. Nice to see you.
Hello, Kai. Top fan right there.
Aura Rosanna says hello. Good afternoon,
Hey, Aura.
Aura.
Hello, Aura.
Boris.
Hey,
Big guy,
Boris.
He found
I
time.
like Boris, man. Boris amazing. Every time we have like a post on LinkedIn and stuff, he always
comments.
have very, very, very insightful comments. So thank you so much, Boris, for commenting on our posts.
Absolutely.
So moving forward, Andrew Summerton, give us the lowdown, man.
Yeah.
What's with today's show?
You know what? It's actually kind of cool. It's exciting and really important for businesses out there, small, medium, or large organizations. Technology, as we know, is advancing so dramatically and so drastically, and skill sets of developers are always having to be updated and fixed, and make sure that they have the talent and the skill set to basically be able to deliver what you're asking as a client. And whether you're a small, little operation in your basement, kudos to you, or a large multi-million-dollar organization, with many developers, as a client, you need to be asking some fundamental questions to make sure that you're going to get the product that you're looking for. And then they're going to be able to hear you and deliver what your expectations are. So today, that's what the show's about. It's just giving you helpful tips.
Yeah, every single company needs to be online, because this is not going to stop, man. Like the pandemic is not going to stop. And since it hit so many businesses that weren't prepared, right? At the very beginning of 2019, and we see the new strains of COVID coming out, and so online is fundamental to have an online presence. But the thing is, the marketplace, the industry is a bit tainted, because you see so much mediocrity, as I was saying before, right? In terms of web development and web designers and people who unfortunately taint this industry. That's why this show is super important for
for
you to
sure.
make the right decision on the
And
right agency.
I agree, Dan. And I think to your point, not even the pandemic. I think because of the pandemic, the business mindset and footprint has changed dramatically. It's a 180-degree swing. I don't think it's going to come 365 and back to what it was. It's a whole new way of doing business, operating your organization, selling your product and services, the digital footprint, the working from home, everything. I mean, from Facebook obviously changing their whole vision and outlook for this whole
Meta.
new virtual mega world and cryptocurrency, and technology is only getting faster and faster and further ahead. So you need to keep up. And unfortunately, to your point, tainted individuals or an industry that has a little bit of probably a misunderstanding in some ways, and some organizations just don't have the skill set, and a lot of people buy based on dollar figure and budget where they should be buying on quality, service,
Yes.
history, experience, and so many things which we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So competition is fierce, and not only that, budgets are low, right? So that
Yeah.
causes a problem. What do you think about all this? I see you, Gladstone. You're sporting the bewire hat in there. You're
Nice.
contemplating. You're quiet, and you're kind of, thinking about something. What is it?
Well, no, you guys already kind of touched on some of those issues, and I just want to say, Dan, obviously, the pandemic it's going to stop, right? We want to put out positivity in there, but because of it, we have seen a change in the way people do business. So it's essential for any organization that's trying to make money to have an online presence, and that's where we come into the picture, right? And we can assist you with that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to give you some of the tips as an individual who's looking to hire someone, what you should be looking for. Because as you mentioned, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of companies that do it right, and there's some that don't do it so good. So we're going to help you identify how to make that decision. And yeah, that's pretty
I
much it,
mean,
guys.
amen, brother. Okay, so let's go to the first one. What is the first question or the first thing that you should look into when hiring a web developer or agency?
So, number one, ask for a portfolio, client list, and references. Now, the reason you want to do this is you want to kind of gauge the experience level and what they're able to do. So there's a number of ways that you can do this. You can, as I stated, you can ask them for references, who they worked with in the past. And then you can do your own research. Go online, take a look at the actual website or the projects that they've worked on. Go through it and just scan it and see if it's something that you'd like to implement. Another good thing you could do is check reviews, right? Because if you ask the
Oh,
client to give you
wow.
their own references,
True.
obviously they're going to cherry pick the best ones, right? So what you want to do is go online. You can use Google reviews or any other platform to see what people have said. Even the Better Business Bureau is a good place to look to see if there's any
Absolutely.
complaints or any
Facebook reviews. Mhm.
Facebook, exactly.
Yeah.
And if and keep in mind there are ways for organizations to kind of manipulate this to make themselves look good. So if you find an organization where it's all good reviews, then that should probably raise a red flag, right? So you want to look for a
Yeah.
balance of good to bad.
Absolutely. So, and you know what? I think asking the first thing that you need to do is ask for a portfolio client list or references because you can weed out a lot of companies out there.
Yeah.
Once you put your request for quotes, request for proposals out there, you're gonna get a whole whack of people
Absolutely.
and companies and agencies bidding for the project. So the best way to actually go through them and weed out whoever you might think it's not good for your objectives you is by checking references, right? So and doing all of this at the very beginning before anything, right?
and
When
and,
think
and
about
to
that.
and to that too, Dan, I think personal references, meaning that if you know an organization that has just had a website built or had an experience with a developer, and if they can recommend people you've done business can recommend a good developer, I think that's also goes a long way because it talks to the portfolio, it talks to the client list, it talks to the reference, but more importantly, word of mouth is so strong because you're getting it from someone you actually trust. So put those
Yes.
feelers out, say to the guys you work with or the colleagues or other businesses you do business with. Hey, have you guys built a website in the last 6 months or a year? What was your experience? Who did you hire? And that's a really great tool to be able to tap into as well.
Exactly. Absolutely. Number two, what do we have?
Number two, what do I get for my budget? Now, this is some people might argue this is the most important, tip. But the budget is very important, obviously, because this is going to define the scope of the project. Depending on what you have to spend, it allows you to kind of map out what you can create, right? I can't tell you how many times I might have a client who has a McDonald's budget, but their taste is filet mignon, right? So it's
They want
essential
a
that
keg.
we
They want a keg
pretty
website.
much,
Yeah, okay,
On a Bentley, but
right?
they're driving around something smaller.
nice. I like that analogy. Absolutely. And the main thing about the budget, a lot of clients they come to developers and they have kind of like a number in mind, but they don't disclose that information. I think it's important to disclose it because if you have 20 different developers, you want to see and you want to compare apples to apples. You have to provide some sort of range. You say, okay, it's $20,000. That's my budget. What can I get for it? And then you're going to get a whole bunch of developers to pitch on what they can give you for that value, for that budget, right? As opposed to having proposals that are like way out of whack in the $90,000 to having proposals that are $5,000. You're actually limiting or actually getting better value for what if you're able to disclose a budget. It's very important.
It is important, and I think scope of work is to go with budget is critical because back to the organizations that could have one person working for themselves and another large organization. Somebody says I can do that project for 5,000, and another company comes and says I can do it for 10. Well, what's the difference? Well, make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Make sure you're getting the complete scope of work that you're expecting, because a smaller organization or someone who just wants the business will promise the world, give you basically, give you everything you want to hear. And then ultimately at the end, you may not get what you're asking for. So, it's just making sure you have a comfortable confidence of what you're getting. And it's very transparent because a budget can change dramatically. You at the very beginning, like I said, maybe it's a $10,000 project, but someone to earn your business is going to tell you 5,000 to earn it. But at the end, either you're not going to get what you wanted, or it's going to cost you 10,000 anyways. And it's going to go around the opposite way to get there. So just be
Yeah.
open-minded.
Hey guys, make sure you put your comments, put your questions on the chat below. We are opening the chat lines for you to make your questions, to comment, to give us your insight. What do you think
Absolutely.
about all of this? It's not just coming from us. We want you to be able to message us and put them online so we can address your questions. So absolutely. Let's
Yeah,
go to
just
the next one. Go ahead, Gladstone.
just one more thing I want to talk about regarding the budget. You also want to know how the organization you're working with, how do they bill? Are they charging you hourly or are they charging you
Ooh.
overall? And regarding the budget, you might be able to set milestones or sprints and then pay it out on a monthly basis. So that's important to ask the agency you're working on how they bill, because that might help you. If you have a smaller budget, perhaps you could break it up into pieces and then pay on a monthly basis. So just a little tip to keep in mind.
Absolutely, 100%. Very, very valuable. So what's the next one?
The next tip.
Number 3.
Do you understand my goals and objectives? So this talks about planning and expectations, right?
Yes.
So planning, more planning. And this is good because then as the client, you know exactly what you're expecting and what the agency is going to deliver you, right? And then that gets put into a beautiful document that you have as reference for later. And then it's up to that team to meet that goal.
I love what you
Yeah.
just said, Gladstone. Put it in like in a document so that you can track it and the expectations are there in black and white or blue and white or however whatever pen you use. The reality of it is the knowing what you're getting for what you're paying for is critical. And again, by having it written down and being able to track the progress, and to your point with sprints and everything else, and understanding the client's needs, it's going to give them a clear understanding where
Mhm.
project creep could come in, or unexpected incidences, or things that the client may want after the fact, which always happens. It's really important to have things written down and clear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have a question about that. So Diego is asking a question. Go ahead, Gladstone, if you can read out that question for me.
Okay, so Diego asks, have you heard bad experiences from clients with cheap but mediocre agencies? Hmm.
What do you think?
um, Yeah, I'm not going to name any names, but I've
No,
heard several experiences. Typically, what I hear from a lot of clients is that once their website is built, they never hear from their agency again. So when it
Yeah,
comes time to
yeah,
make changes to their website, they have no clue what to do. They don't even know where to go to access the back end of their website to make those changes. Now, the good thing about our company is we offer comprehensive training. We also provide a video and a documentation, a step by step manual for all the different components of your
yeah.
website
So
so you know
important.
how to make those changes.
what
So that's the sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was going to say it's so important because as everybody who's watching who has your own business, there's always people coming and going as far as hiring new hires or people going on to different things. So if you have that documentation, you have the understanding, you have the video, someone new comes in can still work on your website, instead of having to always go back to your developer. So that's great that you brought to the forefront, Gladstone.
Absolutely. And you know what? The thing is that over the course of a year, we have probably, um, I can't count it with my fingers, the fingers on my hands. How many times companies come to us and say, you know what, we just built our website and we really don't like it. It's a disaster. Can you fix it? Or people that come back and say, we had to fire our web developer. Can you take over? Or they're just so fed up with others that we need to pick up the pieces. And we do it very happily, right? Because we provide a really, really good support. But we see it countless of times, right? So it is something that happens all the time.
It is, and, and, and
It's
that's
unfortunate.
It is, and that's what this is about, right? This show is, yes, we at Be Wired, we obviously have built a structure that works very well, and we have incredible history in this field. But this is about you, the client, and taking what we're teaching you, because you may not call us, you may be calling somebody else, or you may be working with another organization. This is
Yes.
about strengthening your knowledge base. If we can help you, wonderful. Would love to have your business, but this is about you learning some fundamental things and the questions you need to ask, which I think is critical. Like, we've had clients come to us and we've quoted a job based on their expectations or needs to this point. And we went in at a dollar figure and they came back and said, well, wait a second, this other company can do it for $3,000 cheaper, $4,000 cheaper. And we've actually had them come back 6 months later and say, you know what, we
Yeah.
realize now that we probably should have gone with you. Can you, to Dan's point, go in and fix this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And we've said, absolutely happy to. Sorry that you had this experience, and we've been able to help them. And that's why I think going into this, it's not about just dollars and cents. It's about understanding. It's about process. It's about experience and all the things we're outlining today.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
one other point I wanted just to answer, to expand on Diego's question there. Another example of things, challenges I faced is clients that are not ready. Like they're ready to get a website completed, but they're not ready to do the work or have the
Mm,
deliverables in place. Right.
yes.
So, example of that, we had a project where we had to build an e-commerce site, and there was delays. The client needed to set up their company, right, register it, and add a lot of payment solutions and things of that nature. And these things weren't done. 6 months later, we finally get the information, but they still expect us to hit a target, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, be ready, be ready to be involved in the process as well.
Wow.
I think that's Glassman. I
Super
think that's
important.
so important because you got to remember, as the expert agency, if they are the experts and you choose to go with them, they're experts at what they do, and they're going to guide you to get you where you want to go. But ultimately, it's like when you wear certain kind of clothing. Your business has a design, a feel, a look, something you want to achieve. So you have to be instrumental in that process. It's not like, here's $10,000, see you in 6 months when it's done, or 2 months, or 3 months. You're incredibly involved, and you need to be,
Yeah.
because we don't
Yes.
know your business like you do. So it
Yep.
is a mutual collaboration. There's no question. So great point,
Absolutely.
Gladstone.
Absolutely. All right.
All
Number
right.
4.
Number 4. Can I make updates to my own website?
I sure hope so. Of
Yeah,
course.
and that's one of the things that you were saying, Gladstone. That
Mhm.
like all of a sudden the project is done, the web developer disappears, and you're stuck with the backend, and you don't even know what to do, right? So this is so important. You need to ask this right off the bat. Am I going to be able to make updates to my own website, and how and who is going to give me the training, the tools, and the tools that I need to be able to do those changes, right? So So
Exactly.
critical. So
So
critical.
well, and you know what? Back to the budget scenario. A company could say to you know what? Let's do it for $5,000 hypothetical. Someone else is offering me it for 8. Let's go with the $5,000. But meanwhile, you get all the tools, and you never have to have somebody else help you again. But every single time a small change has to be done, you have to go back to that agency because of the way they coded it or the way they designed it or set it up, and they're going to be charging you every single time they touch it. So it's a
Yeah.
never-ending story, right? So questions you need to ask. There's no question.
Yes.
It's a great.
Definitely.
Talking about
Yeah.
questions, we have questions on the line as well. Sorry, Gladson, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
So if you want to finish your sentence, absolutely.
Oh, I'm all good. I'll read the next question.
All right.
Okay, Aura Rosanna says the key to a good agency is not only the design, but the entire organization team behind it, right? Full of professionals.
Love it.
You nailed it. Absolutely. I
Wow.
don't know if that
Love
was
it.
so much a
Love it.
question. I think it's pretty straightforward. Yes, it is very essential that all those things are in place.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
I think it's a feeling, Aura. I think it really is a feeling. When you hire an individual to come in your organization, you know they may not have all the right skill set, but that can be trained, and the synergies are there, and you strengthen your
Mhm.
organization by having that individual there. It's just like hiring an agency. You need to have, you need to have that feeling. They need to have the professionalism. They
And
need to have the
Aura,
skill set, of
perhaps?
course. But Aura, I think you're bang on in the
Yeah.
sense as in you need to feel that you need to have that camaraderie, that professionalism, that unity
Absolutely.
as an extension of your team.
And you know what? I don't want to toot our own horn here, but I will. So I'm sorry.
Okay.
From the time we do our onboarding meeting, so we have an onboarding presentation for the client, which is 1 hour before to just as a kickoff for the project. It's just teaching the client what we do, our process, all the stuff. From that time, clients love us because we're so full of energy. We're Bewire, right? So we live on coffee and code basically, and we go into that meeting fully pumped. There you go, coffees, cheers, and and we go through all the steps with the client, and it's very very collaborative, very good environment, energetic. You can feel the energy in the air. And once that gets transferred to the project plan, to our Slack channels, to the people communicating, to the project management tools, and dealing with the client for our clients, it's a breeze. It's super simple. It's like we're an extension of, we're part of their family basically, and we make the effort to make every client feel like part of our family, right? So, and I think that's super important from what Aura is saying in there. It is professionals, but the soft skills, they have to be there too. Not just
100%.
the technical, but the soft skills from the
Absolutely.
QA perspective, graphic design, web development, maintenance. All of it has to be there in place.
Well said.
Then
Thank you, Dan.
there.
There,
Okay.
I said it. That's it.
I said it. I totally. Yeah. So hire Bewire Technologies. Anyways,
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
what's the next question, Gladson, or the next? I
The
think it's
next
number
tip,
5.
number 5. When completed, who will own the website? Um, I typically it would be the customer. I can't imagine any scenario where it would be otherwise. Dan,
Well,
I know
that's not
you've
that's
got
Oh,
that's not
trust
world
me.
that's not necessarily
Trust
true.
me.
Yeah,
Let me
I
finish.
yeah.
Just
There's
remember
other.
my limited experience. I haven't encountered that, but Mr. Duran or Mr. Lord Somerton, maybe you guys can speak to a scenario where that would be contrary to this tip here.
Yes. So there's something that sometimes developers do that they shouldn't. So for example, they should not own their domain for the client, right? So if your company is a coffee shop .com, for example, or whatever the domain is, that should not be owned by the web developer. It should be owned by yourself, right? And if a web developer says, "Oh no, yeah, I'll register that, and we're gonna take care of it, manage and stuff like that," no, that should be that should be your IP, right? Your intellectual property, and just like that, so is your website. A lot of there's sneaky ways that you can do as a web developer, right? And one of them is actually hold the license for the website that they created under their account. So the code is theirs, the stuff is theirs, and you're basically just licensing. So I think this question is very important
It
at the
is.
very beginning. Who is going to own the website and the code at the very end, and put it on writing when you do the contract with the developer, right? So
And there's some to that point, Dan, there's some very large organizations out there, and I won't name any because I don't want to get into it, but there's some large organizations that will build a website for you for free. They own it and they'll market it for you, and there's a monthly or a weekly charge to that. And I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. It's a process, and it's basically a service that they provide. But for X number of dollars a month, you get this project. But what happens with that is if you are in your contract bound. So if all of a sudden, in a 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now, you want to change that process, not only are you going to be not getting your advertising and marketing through that organization, you're going to have to build a brand new website, and all those expenses that come with it. So just be aware of what you're getting into. You may want that, and that may be exactly what you want and what you need. But there are organizations that do own the website and charge you monthly for it, and it's like a lease, let's call it. But again, it depends on what you want as an organization. So ask the questions.
Absolutely, guys. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, just make sure you put them on the chat, and we'll address them for you. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate you being in here. Gladstone, what is the next one? I don't even know what number we're in right now.
Number 5. We're going to 6.
Number
right.
6.
Ooh, Dan, I'm sure you're excited for this one.
This is you. This is all Dan. I can see you doing this one.
Just for the laymen's out there, or lay women, is that a thing? I don't know. Anyways, let's define what SEO is before we answer that.
What is it?
It represents search engine optimization. So what that does, it gives the tools of your website to be able to recognize on social media, on Google, etc., where you're going to rank, how people are going to find you, and what elements in your website help with this. Would that be a good explanation, Dan, for you?
Sort of, but it's okay.
Continue. So I know you're an expert at this.
It's all about Google. Search engine optimization is all about Google. Not so much about social media, but it is search engines, Google and Bing, which are the two major ones. Google being 80%, 90% of the market, and then little Bing in there, right? So making sure that the website is SEO friendly.
Exactly.
You have meta tags, from meta tags to a good number of keyword density, friendly URLs, all of that jazz. So it actually does well when people are searching in Google, right?
And does SEO have to do with like where it's being hosted and how heavy it is and the upload and the bounce rate? Like, does that all play a factor in this when a designer is building a website?
Absolutely, because Google has different signals. They call it signals, right? And each signal represent a touch point where they go into the site and see whether it can send that signal. And one of them is speed, right? Speed. So if your website is being hosted in a shared hosting server together with 1,000 other websites, it's going to be a bit slower. And Google is going to ding you for that. It's going to, this website is not sending that signal that we need for speed. Same with the content, the quality content. Same in terms of how many times do you update your content. What's another big signal would be, for example, the mobile responsiveness, how responsive your site is. If it's not really responsive, then it will ding you again. So you want to make sure that you have all of those SEO points in there, right?
And accessibility is another.
I was just, what's funny you said that. I was just that's exactly what I was going to say. That's hilarious. That's
exactly.
That's
so tell us about accessibility, Gladstone.
So for Ontario, we have AWODA, which is basically compliance with people with disabilities. And basically, it's to allow people that might have something like, say, vision impairment. So you want to design your site in a way that you're using good colors, where there's good contrast. The text is readable, the font sizes. There's a whole whack of things, but it also goes with people with cognitive disabilities as well. We can provide you with more information if you visit our website, bwire.ca.
And there's a lot of fantastic tools out there, guys, for the developers and for the companies that you can just plug in. You can buy and plug into your website to make it accessibility. And we partnered with a wonderful organization ourselves. Very cost effective, and it's always current and always relevant. Because building a website, if you don't build it right and you make changes, you always have to be changing the accessibility aspect of it. So things to ask about. So as a business, ask about accessibility when building a new website. Very important.
Yes, we have a controversial question from
Sure.
Adrian in there. Uh-oh.
Here we go.
A
Here we
very
go.
controversial guy.
I love it.
Adrian Perez
Yes.
says, controversial question: local agencies versus foreign agencies opinions. So
Oh,
this
great.
is
It's a great
the first
question.
thing
Go
I
ahead.
would mention is I think people typically do this because they think they're saving, on cost. But one thing you got to consider is the quality with the equipment they're using. Some companies might not want their information going overseas,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
right? And also, another
Time
issue
zones
that people might overlook: time zones. So let's say you're working with an agency, say in Australia, and you're in Canada.
Or
That
India.
might mean, and you need to
for India.
meet. Yeah, you have to have weekly meetings. Are you expecting your agency to be up at 3 a.m. to accommodate your time zone? So these are things that need to be considered. Anything
Well,
else
and
to add?
back to God, so back to number, I think it was first or second point where it's about expectations and understanding and knowing what I'm, do they know what I'm asking for? And communication is critical.
Yes,
So sometimes there
yes.
could be, I'm not saying there's going
The
to be,
language.
but some there could be a language barrier, a time zone barrier, as you said. So these things, you know what? I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think there's a lot of skill set all over the world. I think it just comes down to understanding, knowledge, asking the right questions, and making sure you get what you want. Again, so to answer your question, Adrian, I think there's amazing value all over the world. It's up to the company and the individual, and just asking the right questions to make sure they're getting what they're asking,
Yeah,
what they're expecting.
the other thing is I'm going to go into the legal stuff, right? So
Oh, good point.
when you're dealing with a company in Canada, right? Local. First of all, it's local. It's right here. You can go to their office and talk to them, right? So so that's super important. But in terms of legalities, you are signing a contract. If a company in another country, you pay them, for example, and then they bail out,
Yeah,
you're done. Like
yeah.
you can really do anything about that, right?
Repercussions are
There
not
you don't
there.
have no legal recourse for that contract, because that contract means absolutely nothing. Now there are other companies, and Bewire does it, and does it. We do a very good job in where we have our own agent offices in different places like Colombia and Venezuela, and we contract, but it's our employees that we work with
Yeah,
in
our team,
every
yeah,
day, every year, right? So they're part of Bewire, but you're dealing with a local company. That is different from just offshoring to a foreign company, right? So
for sure.
that
Great.
the legal part is very important.
Yeah, definitely. Good question, Adrian, and hopefully we answered that. That was great, Dan. I totally forgot about the legal aspect.
All right. So what's next? What's the
Number
next one?
7. What is your process?
Hmm.
All right. So
Write
depending
it down on
on
a napkin and just send it to us, and we'll
there
take
you
care of
go.
it. I
There you
think
go.
that's
Or send it
the.
carrier pigeon, right? Um,
Or toilet paper.
so it's good as the client to find out exactly what the process that your agency is going to be using. Do they have regular meetings? What tools are they using for project management, for communications? Here at Be Wired, we use something called Zoho for project management, and for communication, we use a tool called Slack. Emails can always get missed or get lost,
Yes.
and you want someone to reply to you right away. It's good to have a tool like that in place. But even aside from that, in terms of the overall project, is there milestones? Is there sprints? Who are the individuals that are going to be working on this? So these are all questions that you need to know. Don't just hire someone and then just you
Yeah.
know disappear somewhere. You have to be a
So
part of
how
it, and you
about
need to know what it
Gladson,
is.
if you can talk about the prototyping and design aspect of it
Yes.
at the very
Yes.
beginning?
So
Mhm.
exactly. So for what tools are they using? So for us, we use a lot of Adobe platforms like InDesign and XD for
XD.
prototypes.
XD, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and we also use Photoshop for images, right? And that's the thing. Although you can use Photoshop, I think, and Illustrator for development, it's not the right tool, right? So you want to make sure that your designers and your developers are using the right tool for the right task as well. So, and that's something you need to establish in the beginning and know that. Anything else to add, Andrew or Dan?
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think, and I think the tools is the number. We had it as number
Sorry.
8, but it's okay. It's all good. Because it's all part of the process, right? So it's all part of the process. One
Well,
of
I
the
think
things
just
about the
sorry,
process
Glenn.
that I just wanted to mention is
Yeah,
it's the you said it. Gladstone sprints, and our sprints, for example, are 15 days. And at the end of the 15 day, we have to give you a demo, or we have a meeting where we can give you a status report on the overall project and all of that. So the communication throughout the entire process is so fundamental for any web development project.
For sure, absolutely. And one last thing I wanted to add to it was just really the depth of your process. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not knocking a one-man show by any means, or a one-person show, but the depth of the process, meaning that if your job needs to get done, and if you have 4 or 5 people that are working, a front-end developer, back-end developer, a designer, basically a project manager, a QA person, and you reach out to us on Slack or Zoho, and say, for example, Gladstone's sick today, or our developer's sick, or someone else is going to get back to you in that organization. So lines of communication are always there. So I think the depth of your process is also important. Not necessarily, it's not all, but it's important for you to understand going in. Again, this is about you, the people asking the right questions. So these are things you want to ask yourself.
Exactly. Absolutely. So I think we tackled both of them, number 7, number 8.
Yeah.
But we do have questions still. So Gladstone, do you want to put the questions on the screen?
Sure. Oh, look at this stranger.
Tamara.
Should designers, hi Tamara, should designers provide all details from concept all the way to code? No,
That's
it's
a
going to be a
good.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
collaboration, obviously. So the designer is going to conceptualize your ideas, but first he needs some kind of input from you, right? I can't tell you how many times we have people asking us to build something, and they're just like, "Okay, I want a website. That's it." It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
Or you're going to be upset with the final result. So it's up to you to kind of provide some insight as to what you're looking for, give
Yes.
examples of what you've seen, whether it be good or bad. All that information is good information for a designer. So
Well, it's like I said earlier, Gladstone, right? It's I'm not going to tell you how to dress in the morning because you have your own sense of style, right? In
Well,
all
your
fairness.
wife tells you all the time.
Well,
how to
exactly.
dress.
That's why I always stay with a black T-shirt. I'm safe. I'm constant. But it's the nice thing about it is, yeah, we give guidance and expertise and
Yes.
vision and input. But ultimately, you have your style. Your company has its own voice, its own look, its own feel. So you need to share that with us so we
Yep.
understand it. So from your marketing materials, your old website, your brand, your color palette, etc., all those things play a factor in laying out a really great design. But great question, Tamara.
Exactly. Yeah, you're the owner of your own domain, right? And the thing is, like, we are here to walk you through the path of enlightenment, basically,
Oh,
right? So
wow.
That was so
take
religious
you,
and
so we take you there. You know what you want. You have your vision. You have your content. You have your look. You have your design. All of that stuff. But we just guide you through the path.
there you go.
Thank you
All
for
right.
that.
So next one. That was a
Next
good
one.
question.
Good question.
Okay, tools to use. That was the last one. Was there anything else we need to add here, or I think we pretty
No,
much?
I think we're good.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Number 9. How do you go about maintenance and security? See, this is a good question to ask
question.
because not a lot. See, it's not. These are not always included in the core features of every
100%.
project. So it's essential that you ask these questions. What am I getting?
Yes.
Are you guys going to support me
more
afterwards?
more relevant now than ever, right? I mean,
Yes.
sorry, I cut you off, but I think
No,
it's
continue.
so more relevant now than ever. So go ahead, bud.
Yeah. So, like, you want to know if you're going to get support after my website is built. Did you give me training? Did you give me documentation? Do I know where to go to make those changes? Or are you going to do them for me? And what's the cost for that? Or is that have been included in the original price of the
Yes.
project? And then security, which is absolutely critical, especially in the times that we're in right now.
Yeah.
The bad guys are working super hard to make sure they can steal your information. And it's not just, and they're using so many different avenues, right? So it's essential to ask your design and development team, is this included? And for me,
Yes.
I think, having cybersecurity should be the same as having car insurance if you're driving on the road. If you have a website, you should have security
Wow.
because you're
Good
not
analogy.
only putting, your own organization at risk, but the people that are visiting your site, you're putting them at risk if you're not
Yes.
securing your site. So
Yeah.
that's something to keep in mind.
100%.
Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely.
And to that point, if your developer out there doesn't have cybersecurity experience, which I would bet dollars to donuts that most don't, we're very proud at BeWire to own Rhino Cybersecurity. We have two layers. Obviously, our umbrella company is BeWire Technologies first, and then we also have a division called Rhino Cybersecurity. So we're very fortunate, and so of our customers. But this, again, is about you guys. Ultimately, if you hire an agency or developer, they should either know how to protect you, what they're doing to protect you long-term and short-term, or they should be affiliated with some organization that can help you with that process to make sure that you are protected.
Exactly. So my 2 cents on that. Here it is.
All right.
You're spending money on your website. It's an investment for you. You're spending 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 on your website. What have you? Don't you want to protect it? Don't you want to, like to have some sort of protection and insurance around it, so it doesn't get hacked or something doesn't happen to it. So having things like backup, security monitoring, a good, solid, secure cloud provider or hosting company, and doing the regular updates to your website. Those things are super important, and every contract that you have with a web developer should have those things in place, laid out for you. And you know what? The main thing is, like, don't take things on your own hands, right? So if you're going to do updates and backups and all of that, it might be out of your hands. So it's better to actually hire an external company like BeWire Technology or Rhino Cybersecurity to do all of these things for you as a service level agreement for a year or 2 years and a monthly commitment, which is fairly way easier than you having to go in there and do backups or do updates. Because even though, for example, WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, and all of these tools have mechanisms for doing automated updates, sometimes they fail. And when they fail, your website is down, and it can be down for a few days. So you got to be careful with those things, right? So
Glad
those
we
are
just
my
had
2 cents.
perfect. Dan, just this somebody
So
Zabby, yeah, okay.
Zabby has asked, how can we add security in business applications development?
Oh,
Wow.
that's a really good question. Maybe I can answer that.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
So
Dan.
as a cybersecurity company, if you go to rhino.io, we are a cybersecurity company as well. And the nice thing about our company and the way we do it is that our two companies are part of one umbrella. So we do a lot of vulnerability assessment, penetration testing on the side as we develop it. So some of our non-functional requirements are the cybersecurity side. Are we developing code? So if it's a custom application, for example, ASP.NET or even the not just a CMS out of the box open source like WordPress, but something that is more customized, Node.js, etc. You need to have those things in place from the unit testing, right? So as soon as you start breaking code, you should have in a way to be able to do security checking in your QA. So that's part of your QA at the very beginning, and then you can tackle from the source code all the way to releasing your sprints, all the way to releasing the actual live website or online application. So that's a really good question.
Great question.
Absolutely.
And Dan, to those companies, and to his point, to those companies out there that haven't had this done, or that maybe it's a year old or 2 years old, etc., they're not thinking about changing it. What's the recommendation as far as this? Should they be hiring a cybersecurity organization to do a vulnerability test to see where those?
What happens, man? Zabi, thank you so much for this question, because it it opens up a very big can of worms. So a lot of the web developers, they're not very security conscious. And what I mean by that is, sometimes what happens is that you have dev servers and dev websites on the cloud, and then you have Gits, and those Gits might be misconfigured. So a hacker could go in there and do a Git dump, on your Git, and download entire source code for your application, which is what happened with the big Twitch application, right? So you need to have a cybersecurity company doing auditing, not just on the website, but on the web servers, on the actual servers, on the domain, all of that stuff, to be able to get all that stuff out of there, and the developers can fix it, right? So things like having 500 error server errors, right? So like you put a URL and then you get a 500 error, you're choking the server a little bit. That's prone for DDoS attacks. So if you throw a DDoS attack on a 500 error, guarantee that the website is going to go down at one point, right? So you have to have those things in place.
For sure.
I hope that helped, man.
That was great explanation, Dan, and thanks so much for the question, guys. Because really, it's one of those things when you're thinking about developing a website and e-commerce and all that stuff. It's a secondary thought. Cybersecurity still, even though it's so relevant, it's kind of secondary, and a lot of these developers aren't thinking that, and they need to, or you as a company need to. So again, back to the questions you're going to be asking. This is one of those questions.
Yeah,
great.
And he's asking about business applications, right? So
Right,
not just websites built on WordPress and Drupal.
That's
he's
right,
asking about backend applications.
Exactly.
We are engaged with the backend applications, and part of our non-functional requirements is cybersecurity and security. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
So we have another question, guys.
All right, go ahead.
So this one is from Kevin Becerra. Kevin asks, what guarantee should a good agency offer during and after the project? For us, we offer expertise, quality, and then there is a warranty period after your project goes live. So we give you a period, it could be 30 days, for instance, where if you find a bug in the code or there's a glitch, we'll take care of it for you at no additional cost. So I don't think all organizations offer this, but it's a good question to ask what the contingency plans are.
Yes, absolutely a good question. It's not in our list of questions, but absolutely. So we give 30, 60, 90, and there been instances when we'd give 120 days of warranty on defective code or omissions. So defective code is having bugs on the site. Omissions is, okay, so this is the specifications, these are the requirements, but you omitted this one. You didn't build this one. What happened here? You need to build it for me. So those are omissions, right? So defective code and omissions, both.
And it's also accountability. Great question. It's also about accountability to pride, right? As an agency, we've had customers that have come back to us 6 months later because their website was so big and say they have identified something and it's outside of their warranty, and we've helped them because, again, we're in it not for just we'll build it and walk away. We're in it for the long haul. So typically, if there is an additional project, we're there to help them. But if it's a minor little thing, a lot of times we'll help them even outside of warranty in a lot of cases. And that's why we're very proud that we've been doing business with the companies we do business with for over 12 years now, and they continue to come back to us. So it's up to you as an agency, but it's also up to you as the client to ask those guarantees. So great question, Kevin.
And actually, just to piggyback on a thought there, Andrew, it's also up to the agency to do their own testing and QA, but it's also up to the individual client to do their own UAT, right? Their user accepted testing, and just go through the site and make sure they've met all the requirements and everything is functioning as it should. So again, it's a collaboration, right?
100%.
So, but definitely ask those questions in the beginning. Good question, Kevin. All right.
Excellent question. All right. So what's next?
Next is number
10. Is this number 10? Drum roll. This is the last one.
Will you be around when we need you? No, we're fly by night. Of course we will.
Well, that's what I just finished saying, right? I mean, we've been very proud that we've been dealing with our clients for over 10, 12 years now. And when we actually have that onboarding, we actually emphasize that point. We just don't want to be hired by a company and see you later in 3 months or 2 months. It's not how we want to do business. We want to do business, and we pride ourselves on doing business long term. We want to grow your business. We want to take you through that journey, and we want to be there for you for the changes, the updates. We want to see your successes, and we want to be there, that we're an extension of your team. So there's no guarantee in life. Obviously, everybody wants to be around ongoing, and businesses that have a depth and a history are probably have a lot more accountability to that than someone maybe who just started a company. The vision is they're going to be around forever, of course. But again, back to the questions you need to ask and the history. If a company is, a year or 6 months old, let's hope they're around for 20 years, and I wish them all the success. But you don't know that at that stage because you're still just new. But if you have a company that's 3, 5, 8, 10 years old and has all those things we said at the very beginning with references and experience, that's going to give you a little bit more confidence that company will be around in 3, 6, 8 months, 2 years, 5 years from now.
Absolutely. All right, we have more questions.
We do. Good question. So Tamara says, is it important to dig deeper and ask web designers more personal questions like what inspires you? What is your creative process? Um, I would say yes and no. Um, and there,
All
and
right, I
here and
like
here's
this. I
why.
like where
Here's
this is
why.
going, Gladstone.
Here's
this
why.
this is
Because
another controversial question. Thanks, Tamara. I like it.
so is it essential to know who the developer is on a personal level? No, not really, right? Because you just want to know if they can do the job and if they have the qualifications. But if you're trying to build rapport, because you're going to be working with these people over a period of time, so you want to make sure you like the person and you can communicate and have some kind of common ground, right? So yes, in that case, if you want to get to know them to get a sense of who they are and if they're going to do the job well and that they have, they're honorable and they're going to do what they say, then yeah, ask those person questions to try to figure that out. um do you have to know that stuff? I don't think so, but it is a good, a little tidbit to have.
I
I
I
think I
I
think
not
I don't know.
necessarily agree with
I
that, but
know.
you
I
know,
know. Go ahead.
hey,
Go ahead.
hey,
Go ahead.
hey, let me talk. Let me
Well,
talk.
let me hear you.
No, what I'm saying is that part of this trade is the artistic component. I think is huge. I think it's very big because clients come to us for suggestions on the visual aspects, and if we have, you have to have two things in house. First of all, the creative part of it, and then the UX design part of it. So I'll explain what each element is. The creative is okay, so how can we make it look so good that somebody is not going to refuse to make business with you when they see your website. So that's the creative component, right? Like the kind of like the creative juice, the artistic part. But sometimes that artistic part is not functional. It doesn't work on web because you have to abide by certain style and structure for the website, right? So you need to have a balance of them both, right? So you can have a really good ideas in the artist, but don't get immersed on that because that could be very detrimental to the actual project, right? So sometimes what happens is like we have clients that they have this concept and it's just not realistic. So we need to bring them down to earth a little bit. And some other times we have clients where it's boring. It looks very bad and flat, and we need to elevate that and say, "Hey, what about this? This will make it look really good." And they go, "Wow, yes." So that's my take on it. It's not everything, but it is a component, and it's a component that is very important.
And I think, Tamara, I think to your question too, and to both, I think I'm kind of in the middle of both, and in the sense as in, I think you're going to learn it organically as well through the engagement of that relationship. I think if you've chosen right with your agency and communication is there from the get go, collaboration, you're gonna see the designs of the company, you're gonna see the designs and the quality of the work, and through those conversations and through those discussions, you're going to learn about that company, you're going to learn about that agency, you're going to learn about their team as they'll learn about you. So I think if open lines of communication happen, what you're asking is going to happen organically, and you're going to learn that from the get-go. So I don't know if you necessarily physically have to ask it outright. I think it's just going to happen. But again, it's a good question, and the more you know about anybody you're doing business with, the better. There's no question. But I think it'll come in stages. My 2 cents.
Thank you. All right. So there you have it. You got three takes. Do
Three
with that
takes.
what you will. Next question or comment here we have from Boris. So Boris says a good development agency would then be a good interpreter of the client's ideas, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and that goes from active listening, right? And communication. So
Wow,
communication is not
active
always about
listening.
talking, but it's
What
about
did you guys
listening.
just say?
I see what you did.
Well done.
I was listening.
So yes, obviously you want someone that you don't just want an order taker, but sometimes you're not, clients they have an idea what they want, but they don't express it in the correct way. We understand the technical jargon, so they might ask for something and you're like,
Yes.
So you have to try to get into their head and understand what they're really trying to say. So yes, you definitely want someone that can interpret and be a whisperer of sorts. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Me?
A website
Yeah.
whisperer, like a horse
Yeah.
whisperer.
Yeah. No,
Web whisperer.
yeah, so like sometimes the client is like, oh, this is what I want, can you make this change, or can you do this? And then the agency comes back, and the client is like scratching their head and going like, what the heck, this is not what I asked at all. So that's what you mean about active listening. It's not just listening, but also probing questions, so you can get more and more and get exactly what the client wants, so you can come back with something that the client's going to be like, yes, that's what I want, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, more questions. Wow, we have more
Wait,
questions. We only have 4 minutes left, but yeah, go ahead. What else do we have here?
Diego, he says the social media presence of the agency to be hired is important, right? Um, yeah, I guess, yeah,
You know
it
what?
should be.
It's a double-edged sword. I think. I think it's yes, 100%. I think you know what? Great Google
I disagree.
reviews.
Oh no.
Google. You can disagree all you want. I agree. Great Google reviews and everything are important. There's no question. I think what people say about you and how they say it, back to at the beginning of this show where
Yeah.
Vaso says there's a the high, low, and medium, as far as if everything's perfect, kind of read between those lines there. But I also think that what people have to say about you, free will, is definitely goes a long way for a company. And so having some type of presence, I think, is definitely important. Is it the end all be all? Probably not, because sometimes
Yes.
you get thrown under the bus and you necessarily didn't do anything wrong. So again, you have to really make that conscious decision
Yeah.
on your own. But all information is important.
Yeah, about disagreeing, I'm just joking. I'm just joking with you.
It's all
But
good.
in my opinion, it's very important. Why? And I'll tell you why. Because if a web development company is doing the right things in terms of SEO, social
Point.
media, and content delivery, and all of those things that a website needs to have done for themselves for attracting people, they're going to have a right agency with you, because they're doing the
Exactly.
things, they're
For
just they're
themselves.
walking the walk, they're talking the talk.
Great
And
point.
just like Bewire Technologies, we're here doing all of this for you in terms of promotion. And like you can actually learn a lot from the web agency on how do you guys do all the posting on social media, how you guys do all the content development on your blog, etc., etc., etc. Right? So I think it's very important. It might not be everything, but it is an important component.
Absolutely.
Really good question, Diego.
All right, we have one last comment here from Felix. He says, I think
All right.
the best is consume design every day, website design and general design. So this is coming from a designer, by the way, for all
Perspective,
transparency.
Felix. Yes.
So yeah, so exactly, you have to live it. You got to breathe it. So if this is your passion, this is your business, you should be
Yes.
doing it every day. So good,
Yeah,
good
and
point.
I'm pretty sure that Felix eats design for breakfast. And you know what? It is very, actually what Felix is saying is so critical. So I'm part of a newsletter that's called TechCrunch. In TechCrunch, they have all the time, and it's an investor website, right? And they show all kinds of um, in their website. They show every day. They send out links to new startups, and I love looking at their websites. Every time I go into, like, for example, a tech startup, I see their website and I see how they're laying out things, the design, the look and feel. Then I go to the next one, which is a medical one, and I do that every day. And as Tamara was saying, website that helps you be a website whisperer. Absolutely, because then you're like, oh man, this is so beautiful. I want to apply for this client. So what Felix is saying is so important, to be able to consume design every day. I think
Great.
he hit it right on the nail in there.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. I think we are out of time and
That was a
out of questions already. And so I think we're good.
We're all
What do
good.
you
We
feel?
got
fantastic
all the
show.
tips.
How do you feel?
I like it. I like it. I hope the audience and the people out there who are thinking about designing a new website or engaging in a development organization, or hiring somebody new, I hope some of these tips help, because I really think, again, please feel free to reach out to bewired.ca, and we're affiliated as we mentioned with cybersecurity rhino.io. But anything or anybody you're going to engage with, please use these tips that we shared with you. Hopefully they were helpful. And I just think it's a really important show. So, I'm happy we did
Businesswire.ca. Yes.
it.
Next show is going to be super important. We are talking about web development and what to look for in a web designer. But next week on Friday at 12 o'clock on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, we're going to be talking about something super important, which is web security. So, like we're talking about business web applications, it is important to keep them secure and how to keep them secure. So the 2021 OWASP top 10 just came out a few months ago. We're going to talk about all the 10 most important vulnerabilities that happen on web development, on the web development world. So tune in live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube Friday at 12 p.m. Thank you for participating. Thank you for all the comments and questions. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Dan.
Cheers,
Bye,
Thanks,
Andrew.
everybody.
Gladstone. Thanks,
Bye,
Dan.
guys.